Welcome to the Utah Homebuyers Quest podcast with Nelson Bars. Our mission is to give you hope, knowledge, and encouragement on your quest for home ownership.
Housing affordability is at its worst point since 1986.
Higher mortgage rates are impacting Utah's housing market. Potential buyers out there being priced out.
It's getting tougher by the day to afford a home.
Many factors are making it very, very difficult with no relief in sight.
Homeownership may seem like an impossible mountain to climb in today's world. We're here to say that it is possible, and we're here to be your guide, to climb with you, to urge you forward all the way to the closing table. We believe in home ownership, and we believe in you.
Hello, home buyers, and welcome back. I'm so excited to have you here and to talk to you about debt-to-income ratios. My name is Nelson Bars. I'm a mortgage broker here in Utah. I've been helping people for over 20 years buy homes, and I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you get ready and to succeed in your quest for home ownership. So one of the most common reasons why people don't qualify for a home is simply because they can't afford it. The monthly payment is too high for their income, especially when you combine it with all their other monthly payments, right? I think that's it's got to be the most common thing, and I think it's sad. A lot of times people don't look close enough at their situation to look for ways to fix a bad debt-to-income ratio. They meet with a lender. The lender says debt ratio is too high, can't qualify, and they walk away, sign another lease, and hope for a better future, right? Oftentimes it's just the thought, okay, I'm just going to pay off my debt. Once I get all my debt paid off, I can buy a house, or I'm going to get a raise someday, or I'm going to finish school and I'm going to make more money soon. And that's actually probably a reasonable expectation. You know, right now we don't make enough money to buy a home, so let's wait until we make more money. What I do a lot of times is look for ways to fix a broken debt ratio now, and there's two ways to do it. One, you can fix the debt and just whittle away at the debts, and another is to fix the income. Try to find ways to increase the income. And a lot of times it's a combination of all these different things. So my goal today in this episode, I want to walk you through a sample buyer. Just a typical financial picture of a buyer who comes to me and wants to buy a home and doesn't quite have the debt-to-income ratio they need to qualify. And I want to show you some of the things that I might recommend to that buyer to fix their debt ratio and be able to qualify now and get a home now. And underlying all of this conversation is my belief that getting a home is essential, and it's a huge, important investment. If you've listened to Base Camp episode 1, you know how I feel about home ownership. And I believe it's worth some effort, some restructuring of your debt situation or even your income situation to make it work. Okay, so let's walk through an example. I've got a list here of typical debts that a family may have when they come to see me. You can see we've got a couple of car loans. Sometimes the vehicle payments that I see are really high. I mean, I've never had a $725 car payment, but I have seen a lot of first-time home buyers who have a high car payment. And this sample family has two cars, right? One for him, one for her, $725, $642, and they also have a recreational vehicle. A lot of times that's a camp trailer or a RZR or some kind of a ATV, and they've got a monthly payment on that, maybe a motorcycle, but oftentimes there's something there, and then a few credit cards. These credit card balances aren't crazy. I've met a lot of people who have worse credit card balances than this, but this is maybe a typical situation. You got 4 credit cards, each with its own monthly payment, and a consolidation loan. By the way, if you're listening to this on audio, hopefully I can paint a picture, but if you're watching, you'll see a visual of these debts and all the things that we're going to do on the screen. It might be easier to follow. But anyway, so we have a consolidation loan. So this family probably at some point in the past had some credit cards and they consolidated them into a signature loan at the bank. And they've got a monthly payment for that as well. And some student loans. $45,000 of student loans. If these were on a 15-year repayment plan, you might have a payment somewhere around $354. So if we add all that up, this family is paying $2,400 a month in debt. And now look at their income, pretty good. We've got borrower 1 makes $4,000 a month. Borrower 2 makes $3,000 a month. So right now, if you compare their debt to their income, $2,400 versus $7,000, it's only 35%. The trouble is when we try to add a house payment. How much house payment can they afford to buy and still keep that debt to income ratio under 50%? Remember, that's the limit usually, 50% total debt to income ratio for conventional loans. Sometimes if we do an FHA loan, it can go even higher. They'll let you go up to 56%. Well, if we were to put, let's say, a $2,500 house payment in there, which is in our market these days pretty tough to accomplish, 70% debt to income ratio. And it's just way too high. Just blows everything out of the water, and there's just no way. So you might get told, fix your debt ratio, come back, and we'll try this again in a few years. Now let's just take a look at what could they get if we put it in, let's say $2,000 a month for a house payment. Does that get them under 50%? Nope, that's 63%. If we get it down to $1,500 a month for a house payment, 56%. So okay, maybe $1,000 a month house payment. Yep, that's what they qualify for, and that translates to about $115,000 mortgage, depending on the interest rates. So that's a discouraging loan consultation. If I met with someone and went through that and they walked away, they might conclude that they're never going to get a house, right? And the hard part is when they're already paying $1,000 a month rent, they hate the place they're renting, but the idea of going up to $2,500 is impossible with their budget. Okay, so let's just look first at the debt picture. What could we do to this debt picture to help lower their payments elsewhere so they could qualify for more house payment? Well, I always like to start with the cars. I think the cars usually are a great place to find some monthly savings. So look at this first vehicle. They currently owe $20,000 on it, but when they bought it, it was a $40,000 car. And they still have the same payment. They like the interest rate. It's at a 3.5 rate, so they would never want to get rid of that rate, right? Well, I would encourage them to look at refinancing that car. Instead of paying $725 per month, if they were to refinance that, we could drop that, even if it's just a 5-year loan, to $375 per month. Now, I'm not going to be able to refinance that. They would have to go to their bank or to their credit union and get a new loan on this car. That saves them $350 a month. Obviously, it depends on the interest rate. It depends on the term you pick. You could even make that payment lower by stretching it out to a longer term, maybe 6 or 7 years instead of 5 years. And I'm assuming for this one that the rate went up 1.5 points, right? So from 3.5 to 5%, and people would say, oh, I'm going to pay more interest. Honestly, the annual interest cost of something like this would be around $300 a year. To me, I think that's a small price to pay for the benefit of owning a home. Both today and long term, the financial benefits of owning a home would blow the $300 a month interest expense on your car loan out of the water. So we could do it with both cars, right? The other car, maybe it's newer, maybe they don't stand to save quite as much on it by refinancing, but with this loan, I'm assuming they bought it for $35,000. Now they owe $25,000. If they were to refinance that, even with the higher interest rate, they could drop that payment to $469 a month. That saves another $173 a month. You see where we're going here? We're going to itemize these debts. We're going to look at all of them. We're going to zoom out a little bit, and we're going to see how can we lower the other payments to make room for a house payment in your budget. Now, the recreational vehicle, what if, crazy thought, you decided it was more important to have a house than a recreational vehicle? And you just decided to sell it for now. Let's get rid of our four-wheelers. Let's get a house. And maybe next summer we can buy four-wheelers again if the budget works. But it's more important to me that you own a home and you begin building your net worth and begin building that stability in your life than to have the four-wheelers right now. So I'm not going to tell you to go sell your four-wheelers, but you might choose to. And in this case, that eliminates $250 a month almost, right? So everything we eliminate out of this list of monthly debts, every dollar of payment reduction that you can find on your other debts is a new dollar of house payment you can qualify for. So now let's look at these credit cards. We've got 4 credit cards. They all have their monthly payments. And these, by the way, are, if you're paying these minimum monthly payments, you're not really making progress on these credit cards, right? One thing I might recommend you do is you go back to wherever you consolidated your credit cards last time, and you do it again, and you replace all of it. You replace the credit cards and the debt consolidation loan with a new debt consolidation loan. And so that one balance is going to go up, but it would wipe out all your credit cards. And let's say you got a 10-year loan at 8%, your monthly payment would be around $272, but you just wiped out $183 of payments. Your new payment is $183 lower than what you were doing on all of the other credit card payments. So, okay, student loans. One thing with student loans, if you just start your monthly payments when you graduate, they'll probably offer you a handful of different payment scenarios. Do you want to stretch it out for a long time? Do you want to be aggressive? When a client comes to me, I don't really know what they've chosen to do. I don't know if they've gone aggressive or not, but I would encourage you to call the student loan provider and talk about payment options again. One thing that is very common to do is an income-based payment plan. So you submit your income, and they determine what a minimum payment should be based on your income. And it could be quite low. Instead of, in this scenario, I'm assuming instead of paying a 15-year plan at $354 a month, perhaps you could reduce that payment to $200 a month or even lower by applying for an income-based payment. Now, that has to be reviewed every year, but that lower payment can be used for your mortgage qualifications, okay? So now look what we've done. We've removed a whole lot of payments, and now if we wanted to say, let's see how much house payment we can qualify for. Maybe let's put in a $2,000 a month house payment. That gives you a debt-to-income ratio of 47%. Overall, you're actually paying less than your budget before when you had all those higher monthly payments and $1,000 rent. So you've actually lowered your monthly budget and you have a $2,000 house payment. Now $2,000, it's not going to get you much, honestly. In depending on the interest rate, you're looking at maybe $250,000 to $300,000 loan amount. Really, I think if you could get a $2,500 payment or even $3,000, I think you're going to have a lot of options in the housing market. But still, that wouldn't be quite enough to make the debt ratio work for this family. We've made a lot of progress. We're a lot closer than 70%. But if our goal is to get qualified for a $2,500 a month house payment, we either need to get rid of more debt or let's look at the other side of the equation. Let's look at the income. I think a lot of times I have clients, we don't spend a lot of time talking about income. I want to spend a lot of time on this podcast talking about improving your income. That's something that might be a long-term endeavor. It might be a short-term endeavor, but we should look at that because if we can add a little bit to your qualifying income, then your debt ratio might work. So let's just assume a couple things. What if borrower one finds a new job? Isn't that a crazy idea? What if the job that they're in isn't paying them everything that they're worth? And maybe they could go, even if they could only earn $500 a month more. Well, that increases their monthly income, and now the debt-to-income ratio is only 51%. The other thing that I find sometimes is that you've got things like a side business or a part-time job that you might say at the beginning, yeah, well, she has a photography business, or, he does eBay sales, and that's really negligible, so we're not going to worry about that. Well, what if it's not negligible? I have a client who does eBay sales, and fortunately, he has been reporting that on his tax returns for the last 2 years, and we're able to use it. We're able to just document that it's an ongoing business, and he's averaged, $500 a month, and we can put that on there. So let's say you have a side business. Maybe it's art or photography or eBay or Uber, or who knows. But if you're paying your taxes on that income, even if it's only $500 a month, I want to count it. I want to put it in the total. And even just that much of a boost in income makes this debt ratio work, and now they qualify for that $2,500 house. Sometimes all of these little moves are not quite enough. What else can we do to add some income to your application? One thing that we don't always think about is a cosigner. What if your parents or your grandparents or another family member is willing to cosign to help you qualify to get the home? The way that works is that we just add all of their income and all of their debt to the calculation, and we calculate the debt to income ratio including their income. So even if we didn't go back and do all this other stuff, let's assume you like your debt situation, let's reset all the payments to the way they were before. We're still trying to get you qualified for a $2,500 house. And how much income could we add if we add your parents? Let's say one of your parents makes $5,000 a month and they have no debt. Well, that solves it right there. That gives you a 41% debt ratio. It's a beautiful file that would approve any day. Even if you're trying to buy a $3,000 a month house, you're looking at 45% debt ratio, and we could still get that approved. So the thing about cosigners to understand is that whoever is cosigning with you on the loan, they are equally obligated on that mortgage. They just need to understand that if the payments don't get made, it's going to hurt their credit as much as yours. If there's a foreclosure, it's going to hurt their opportunities in the future for getting a home as well as yours. And so make sure that that cosigner understands that if they want to help you. A lot of times we do this because let's say you do have two borrowers, but one of them has an income source that's not usable, right? Maybe they're self-employed and they haven't filed their taxes in a few years, or they're on commission or they switched to commission and it hasn't been long enough to count the commissions. So things like that I feel like are a really good time to bring in the idea of a cosigner, put a parent on the loan who can help you fix your debt to income ratio. Okay, so there is a sample. I would recommend we do this for you. If you have been told in the past that your debt to income ratio is not good enough, I would love to look at it with you, go through the line items, and try to restructure. See if we can actually help you move into a home without blowing your budget out of the water. What if we reduce something on the left-hand side so that you can add a house payment on the right-hand side, and suddenly now you're a homeowner and your monthly budget works and you're building equity, your net worth is improving, your lifestyle is better. And I think it's worth it. You might have to pay a little more in interest on some of these loans, but it's definitely worth it. It's something that we can do together. It's something that you can do, and I would highly recommend you don't give up when someone tells you the debt to income ratio is the problem. Well, let's look at fixing it. All right, thanks for listening, and appreciate you very much, and let's do it again soon.
Thank you for listening to the Utah Homebuyers Quest podcast with Nelson Bars, your place for a strong dose of inspiration and knowledge so you can stay on top of your quest for home ownership. If you have a question or comment for the show, we'd love to hear from you. Visit homebuyersquest.com to record a voice memo or submit your question. You can also join our Facebook community to interact with experts and fellow travelers. Search Homebuyers Quest on Facebook to find the group and join the conversation. But with just a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to the next episode. And remember, we believe in home ownership and we believe in you.